And actually, it's the time in my life where I have the least. Like, I have the least material possessions, I have the least societal labels, and I am enough. 50% namaste, 50% fuck off. We are seen as these like lovely yogi spiritual types, but at the end of the day, you're there
Yeah.
to set clearer boundaries to stop people pleasing, because you're just abandoning yourself every time you people please or you let someone walk all over you.
What if everything you've been told about success is wrong? Welcome to Successful AF, the podcast for people who've checked all the boxes but still feel empty inside. You know the story. Perfect CV, impressive job title, great salary. Everyone thinks you've got it all figured out. But behind closed doors, you're working yourself into the ground and wondering why success feels so completely exhausting, whilst fantasizing about opening a jam shop in the country. Or perhaps that's just me. I'm Jess West. I'm a career and leadership coach, and I also have a full-time corporate job. I've been exactly where you are, corporate climber by day, anxious mess by night, until I realised the game was rigged from the start. Each week on Successful AF, we are rewriting the rules. No more grinding until you break. No more pretending perfection is a superpower. No more building your worth on other people's scorecards. We'll hear from people who've cracked the code, the ones who've set actual boundaries that stick and learned to succeed without sacrificing their sanity. This isn't your typical lean in and work harder advice. This is about dismantling the achievement trap and building something better. Because here's the truth. You can be successful without being miserable. You can be ambitious without being anxious. And you can finally stop feeling like a fraud in your own life. Ready to get successful AF? Get yourself a cup of tea, take yourself out for a walk, hit subscribe, and let's burn down the old playbook together. Today, I'm joined by Clare Walton, whose story is one of the most profound transformations I've ever encountered. I met Clare in India in early 2023 and was immediately drawn to her. She has the most magnetic personality and is just infectious to be around. Claire's journey from Riot Squad police officer to yoga teacher and social entrepreneur is nothing short of extraordinary, and it's a testament to the power of radical self-discovery. What began as an inconsistent yoga practice, as Clare describes it, a tiny seed seeking solace from the consuming demands of police work, eventually grew into a life-changing path that would take Clare from Greece to India and ultimately to her true calling. But this transformation wasn't easy. Claire's story includes some of life's most challenging experiences, and today she speaks with a raw honesty about the darkness she faced and how yoga became her pathway to healing. Claire's approach to yoga is deeply personal and intuitive. She believes yoga is accessible to everyone, regardless of mental or physical starting points, and that it has the power to help us clear old stories, trauma, and conditioning that we carry in our bodies. Through her heartfelt teaching, Claire creates spaces where people can find joy, connection, and the courage to love who they really are. Her journey reminds us that healing isn't about bypassing difficult emotions. It's about sitting with them, moving through them, and discovering that even when life dampens our inner flame, it never truly goes out. Today, Claire shares how she learned to redefine success, build authentic community, and create a life where she feels most fulfilled with the least possessions. This is a conversation about transformation, resilience, and the courage to completely reimagine your life, no matter where you're starting from. Just a quick content warning, this episode contains discussion of fertility struggles, suicidal thoughts, and domestic violence. Please take care of yourself while listening and reach out for support if needed. So, today's guest, Claire. I'm so
Hi.
excited that you're here. I think you've got an amazing story. So let's start with that. Tell us your story.
Right, Jess. God, it's a lot, right? So I met you, didn't I, in India? We were on our vinyasa training and we hit it off, and we both got a love for creativity and writing and all that sort of beautiful, heartfelt stuff. But it's never really been my world. So my background is that I was Metropolitan Police Officer for 17 years. And I was on the Riot Squad. I was heavily in masculine energy as a survival technique. I was a Riot Squad police training instructor, the PTI for the guys there and stuff like that. And I had to be really tough, but it wasn't really me. I'm not a toughie at all. I'm a big softie, but we do these things to survive. Spent 17 years in the Met, and I had all sorts of really interesting different roles. I worked in domestic violence. I worked on some seriously sneaky beaky operations, and just had a wonderful time of it. But I was burning out. The first time I stepped onto a yoga mat was when I was working in domestic violence, because it's just such a words fail me still, that just it's such a difficult environment for the victims, for the police officers trying to secure the convictions. It is just the most soul destroying world for everybody involved in it. I will tell you a bit more. We've gone full circle with our work around domestic violence now. But I was definitely burning out. There was no work-life balance. I didn't take very good care of myself. There was no lunch breaks, long, long hours, like literally 18-hour days, and you would turn around and have a few hours sleep and you'd be going back into work again. So it was really, really just the way of the job. I loved it as well because I'm absolutely a fixer. If someone's got a problem, I don't really do surface level conversation. I want to know your deepest, darkest wounds. And if
Amen.
there's anything I can do to facilitate some joy and better healing, moving towards some healing around that, that's my world. So because of stepping onto a mat the first time through being in domestic violence, I had a very inconsistent practice that wasn't watered well. It was a little seed that was blooming, but it wasn't well watered. And I just went every now and then. I started counselling as well because my relationships were shit in the place.
Yeah.
There was no like time for really anything personal to take place. And it's that thing, Jess, you'd go to like parties and you'd have this really successful police career and you were literally doing the most amazing operations and stuff in central London. And then you'd sit with someone who'd just be like, oh, still not married then, still not got kids then. And you'd be like,
Oh,
and you'd come away and you'd feel like this, I'm failing
yeah.
in so many areas. So that's where I started to align to different people that weren't living that life, because it's never really been my path to be this person that follows what maybe society does. I've always been a little bit different.
That's why we're
So
mates, isn't it? Let's be honest.
so I ended up leaving the police, and it was a little bit of a transition period. I actually got married during that time, and I was really struggling with a transition from having this full-on career where you were really needed. It was a huge part of my personality, it was a huge part of my identity. And then I got married into this world where I was kind of shoehorned a little bit into this Disney princess world for a little while. I'm more of a Disney witch than a princess. So unfortunately that marriage didn't work out. But during that marriage we also navigated trying to have children, and I had failed adoption and failed IVF. So that was a real lot to navigate, and that really put me on my rock bottom. So that was the toughest thing that I navigated personally, but it put me on a healing path. And I was really lucky in that I did find a good counsellor, a good coach, and obviously these things cost money and I could afford to do that. But now I think there are ways that we can still work with healing without having to always spend lots of money, and that's hopefully what we're trying to now facilitate. I went on this amazing retreat with a wonderful lady who I know, the completion coach. She basically said to me, what are you going to do? I booked a teacher training course for yoga, and she said, what are you going to do with that teacher training, Claire? And I was like, oh, I don't know, I'm mid-40s, I'm too fat, I'm too old. I reeled off this list of limiting beliefs, and I was on a retreat to overcome self-limiting beliefs. So she was like, oh, we need a little bit of work here, Claire. So she said to me, I think you should teach, I think you should name your group, I think you should get your village hall, and I think you should do it before you go on your course. And I looked at her and I was like, are you mad? Like, who would do that? So then she turned around to me and she said, no, Claire, you've got to go for this. So I did that, Jess, and before my teacher training, I had named my group I Am the Storm Yoga, which again has got a meaning behind the name, about quelling our inner storms, and had a little bit of divine guidance on the name while I was on holiday as well. On one occasion, I found a boat with exactly the same name while I was toying around with the name for the group. So I named the group, and then halfway through my initial training, which was with Miriam Indries, who's incredible in Greece, I found that my first class was fully booked and I hadn't even finished the course. And I was like,
Yay!
so I was really scared. I went to the village hall, came back from training, did my first class. And it was awful. I was full of imposter syndrome.
I'm
I didn't
sure
get
the
my
class wasn't awful. Having sat in your
I,
class, but yes.
I didn't get my words out. My music was too loud. Someone complained. I had a supporting teacher there who thought I'd missed half the sequence. So she came over halfway through and went, Claire, you've missed it. And I went, no, no, I'm getting to it. Anyway, so I left that day and I went home and I sat there, Jess, and I was like, what am I doing? Then those little messages came through. Really enjoyed last night's class, Claire. Can I come? Are you going to do more? So from there, it just started to take this little trajectory, mini one, tiny little tiny steps, right? Had no vision of really how we were going to progress, but I knew this was like my heartfelt work. I walk a karma path, Jess. So my path is about selfless service. And it comes from people pleasing. It comes from a tricky dynamic in my childhood. It comes from policing for years and putting everybody first. But it also makes me feel amazing that when you just give selflessly, actually altruistically, you get so much indirectly back. The love that you get back when you give is incredible. And I don't do it for that reason. I literally do it to be as a part of a selfless path, as part of a karma path. So I am the storm. We found this beautiful old water mill in Leverinset, Holt Watermill. It's stunning. And I'd never met them before, went to the owners and I said, is there any chance that you want the odd class here? Blah, 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 nothing much, you know. And the owner took me up to the top floor and she said, could you use this space, Claire? She basically gifted me this entire floor for like a yoga. And I was like, thank you, universe. Are you joking right now? This is incredible. So we were in this space for a while and it was freezing and there was no heating. And I still had people coming to class, Jess, and they were like had hats and gloves on, but they were just like practicing with, in in freezing cold. And I was like, you guys, look, it's like being a yogi in the Himalayas. So we're like, it's all good. We're enhancing these like yogi powers, right? And then basically, it didn't just build. It was like we didn't have any marketing. We didn't shout about ourselves. There was like literally me with a few flyers in the local town. And there were weeks that I sat there and I taught and no one came, like no one came. And then I would sit there and I would be like, I don't even really need to be doing this. What am I doing? No one's turned up this week. Or then you'd have one or two people. But this is the thing when you're teaching, never be ungrateful for those first one or two people because they are your starting point for the rest of your career. And if one person's turning up for you, then more people are going to turn up for you. And that's the big thing to remember with everyone who's starting out. It's so important. These lovely few people started coming along to my classes and I'd sit there each week waiting to hear if there was a car going to roll across the gravel thinking, come on, let me have someone to teach. And then like literally it just evolved and word of mouth is a big thing. Like it's like word by coconut round here. Like everyone just like seems to hear about things and it's a really natural, nice, organic way of building. And then January this year we did a renovation and we created a proper studio space. So we put some heating in and we've really done a lovely job. And we're at the top of the watermill. We've got the River Glaven that runs underneath it. It's got views. It is such a special building and there is a real spiritual calming vibe in the room when we're there. And we're teaching yoga. We're coming away from this perfection of what these poses should be looking like. And, being an ex-copper, I was as stiff as a board. Like when I started yoga, there's so much that I can't do. But I think as long as there's heartfelt intentions with what you're doing, and we're also really good at holding space for people's emotions. A lot of people, when they teach, are like, I've got to protect my energy. I can't listen to that offload. I can't take that on from somebody. Whereas when I was in the police, you had no choice. It was your job. You would
Mm.
listen to the most harrowing and traumatic tales of people's lives. You literally would. But there is a way of processing that. There is a way of dealing with that for yourself. So you've got the capacity for your own life and your own emotions, but you've also got space for someone else's emotions too. And it's so important. So often I will have people in floods of tears after class, and someone said to me, Claire, are you just happy with making people cry? I was like, no, I really
I
want
give
people.
people a space to cry because there's nowhere else in the world for them to
Yeah,
do that.
definitely, Jess. I really want people to be in their joy and bliss, and that's what we're trying to facilitate. To know that you're gonna always navigate some really heavy stuff in life, right? We're all on this same planet. We're all living with all of the trauma, all of the grief that could come our way. But yoga helps us navigate the duality of life. You know, on one hand, you can have the most spectacular things happening over here, and your life can be a complete bin fire, right? And you've just got to find a way of balancing the craziness out. And that is just what yoga does. Like, I think some people who don't practice yoga and don't get it, I mean, a lot of my friends, I've changed so much. I have
Yeah.
changed so much. There's a lot that's stripped away from me, Jess. Like I said, I don't have kids. I don't have a husband anymore. I'm literally, living with my dogs, running the yoga studio. But I couldn't be more contented with my life. I'm really, really grateful. I'm grateful for all my life lessons, the good and the bad and the ugly. And I've grown and I've evolved, and yoga has absolutely helped me, not just yoga as a practice, but the community. So
Yeah.
where we've built a community, and like me and you, we've met through training. I've built the most beautiful network of these soul-led, incredible humans that just love you. And yoga connects you back to loving yourself and being aligned with people that love themselves and love you with like ferocity.
Yeah.
And it's a different vibe altogether. We just don't open our hearts up enough to love. We're all walking around with these really big protected hearts. And even it's incredible because there's so many people in this world that do a lot of work and a lot of healing, but then we're scared to let that heart be open again and connect back to whatever comes our way, really. And we're here for all of it. We're here for all the messy emotions, all the ups and downs, it's part of it. But just for me, yoga really builds mental resilience, agility, and strength. And I couldn't be more grateful for how things are panning out. We're just about to open a sauna box. We're working across several charities now. So we support two dog rescue charities, one in India, one in the UK. And we are supporting a women's domestic violence charity called Pandora, which is in Norfolk. And hopefully, we're going to try and get our CIC status, which means we become a social enterprise. And then the view is to try and work across more local charities. Everything we do at the moment is not for profit. So we put money back into, after we've paid our bills and our teachers, we put money back into the charities. And we've just grown. We've got 4 teachers with us now. We've got a massage therapist with us. But the other thing I would say, Jess, for us, we don't chase, we attract.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes when you're a new business, you can be grasping, right? And yet, where we've got a different energy exchange with it being a karma path because we're not about commercial, get the money in. We can think about money being an energy exchange. So you come and bring this money to us, we provide you this service. And then sometimes people want to give more because they appreciate what we're doing, they know where their money's going and stuff like that. So it's just this energy exchange, thinking about money as an energy exchange rather than a I need this for me. So that's working really nice. So that flows into then we get what we attract, and we don't, and everything that has come across my path, everyone goes, you should do this, Clare Walton. Why don't you meet that person? Or why don't you come to this? I'm like, yes, please, because
Yeah.
that then opens up the world to what comes in and what's going to naturally align. And you can also, Jess, you get a feel for people very quickly.
Yeah.
So if you're working with true yogis or people who are running charities, most of them aren't doing it for the money.
Yeah.
Most of them are doing it because they've got just really good people who usually have navigated some pretty dark stuff for themselves. Or they're just good souls, really. And, there are many, many good souls in this world, and we just need to align more to them and raise this vibration. So I just feel really grateful, to be honest. I live in gratitude.
I love that. What a beautiful story. I'm curious to know what took you to step on the yoga mat for the first time, because I know we've talked about this. So there wasn't support for you in the police. Like they didn't provide counseling, they couldn't.
Yeah.
You weren't encouraged to go to yoga. What was it in you that was like, right, actually, I'm going to give this yoga thing a go?
Yeah, I think there are huge levels of PTSD in the police, and it's actually said that most police officers will witness more trauma than anyone in the armed services. So it can be quite shocking. And it's really funny because I've done a number of roles, but being in domestic violence, I couldn't switch off.
Yeah.
My head couldn't switch off from worrying about if somebody I was taking care of or had an investigation around, was that person going to be alive the next day? And it really doesn't get any worse
Oh,
than that. And you put the biggest safety measures in place that you can. You had every safety measure in place that you could around that person. But at the end of the day, humans are erratic and you never know what's going to go on. And I think, this whole idea of huge dialogue at the moment about this toxic masculinity and and femininity, and we've got both parts in us, and we all need to be doing our work to heal it. We need to be healing both parts of that in ourselves, but it is just a shocking world. So I was exhausted, burnt
mm,
out. The hours was incredible. My workload was massive. I worked in Hackney. It's pretty lively. And I just literally, I don't know, there wasn't really much left of me. They were taking everything. And I just went and sat on a mat and I didn't really know what was going on. I didn't understand the Sanskrit language that was being used. I was doing everything from strength. I've always been this like strong girl, marathon runner, PTI in the Met. So everything was from strength. And
mm.
I was like, I'm nailing this class, like a little bit arrogant, a little bit ego. And then she was like, "You're not breathing." And I was like,
Oh,
and actually, over the first few weeks, I realized how much I wasn't doing yoga. I was just operating from the ego and using strength to power myself through this class. It was just, even from that first one, though, I was like, my head had so much clarity and space. And I was like, what is this magical thing?
what is this witchcraft and how do
What
I get
is
more
this?
of
Let
it?
me into it.
I think there's a big metaphor in that, right? We push through, we push, we push, we push. And then actually where you've gone is you've moved into flow and you've sort of gone with the flow of life and you've taken it and guided your life. You're not just sitting on your boat letting the wind take you. You have just had this amazing journey of being able to see yourself in that and be like, okay, actually I'm going to transition into shedding the layers, shedding the
Mm.
baggage and moving into
Mm.
who you are now, which is incredible.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of letting go that needs to be done. And I think that we go through life thinking we need more. And actually, I think the mentality would be so much easier if we could need less. All of our areas in, financially, with material possessions, with, how much we give in relationships sometimes, and like the fact that we need to put ourselves first. And all of this stuff might seem selfish, but it's not. It's the most healing journey and the healing path, really. But it's been an incredible journey, and I think that I'm going to go way deeper into it yet. I just feel like things are coming in and naturally aligning, and the right things are coming and the wrong things are dropping away. And that's how it's been for me, Jess. And I think that not having kids was brutal. I really did want
Mm,
to have a family. And, when that didn't work for me, it was like, who am I in society? Who am I as a woman in society when all of my friends and family have had children? What is that? What do I do with that? And I just found myself in this teaching training environment. And it was incredible because the philosophy and the kindness and the humanness and the realness of everybody, it was like, I know this sounds really cliche to see this, but it was like a coming home, and it was like
yeah.
I knew I'd been there before. And it was almost, and they say that, don't they? They say that if you've really found yoga in this lifetime, they think that you've done it before in previous life. So I'll take that.
And
I'll
maybe this
redo
is your grow, you know,
that.
like give it three more lifetimes and you'll be upside
Exactly.
down doing whatever. You'll be hanging from the trees.
No, it's cool. I love my practice. My practice has slowed down, and that this has been my thing, Jess, in that I have gone from warp speed in my life, like,
Yeah.
responding to like literally driving in anger through London with blue lights and dealing with absolute carnage, literally people's
Mm,
carnage. And I have consciously, unconsciously chosen to slow down. And I realize that where I've done that, I've got way more of a creative side. and that now I enjoy writing and poetry and reading and all these soft and gentle and beautiful things. But I also, even to the point of leaving my marriage, it wasn't in alignment with the pace that I needed to, that was still at a really fast pace. And I just need to be at a slow pace. I get to enjoy a slow morning. And that is everything for me, to get up, to spend time with my dogs, to get on my mat, to journal. Like, I know that not everybody has this opportunity, and I am so, so fortunate. But then the flip side is I didn't have kids. I would have loved to have had kids. So,
Yeah.
a lot of people are like, you're really, really lucky, Claire. You've got all this time and space. And I'm like, yeah, but I had to go through all that pain to get where I am today. So, there's always this payoff. There's always, and this is that thing, judging people on what you see. You're like, oh, you're nailing it. You're doing really well. You haven't walked a minute in their shoes. You don't know. And I think that from the work that I've been doing now and training as a therapist and stuff like that, I think that you can never judge somebody's journey ever, because people are carrying the most excruciating pain, and some people just carry it really well. You would never
Yeah.
know that they have had such heaviness and darkness in their life. And it's there for everyone. There's hardly anyone that hasn't been touched by grief or trauma or childhood issues or sexual abuse or all these horrific things in life. They're there in all of us, unfortunately. And if we could just learn to have a little bit more compassion
Mm,
in this world, and a little bit more kindness, then, that's the thing. It's never, how someone is with you is never about you. It's never
yeah.
about you. It's always their stuff. So, it's just, these things are huge life lessons, but it's incredible. It's
But
incredible
actually,
life.
to be able to carry that as well, I think everyone's got stuff going on, but the way you carry that into your everyday, I think is incredibly admirable. I read a book, and I can't remember who wrote it, so I would credit them, but it was all about basically saying that everyone is doing their best, and you have to just assume that everyone is doing their best every single day. But sometimes if I'm cycling through central London and someone cuts me up, I do not think that person is doing their best. And I tell you what, the words that come out my mouth they are not
Well,
peace and love.
am I allowed to swear, Jess?
Yeah, I mean, the
So
podcast is called Successful as
oh
Fuck.
yeah,
Like,
oh well, that's the word I want to use. 50% namaste, 50% fuck off. And this is the
yeah.
thing, right? So we are seen as these like lovely yogi spiritual types, but at the end of the day, if someone crosses a clear boundary, you're there
Yeah.
to set clearer boundaries to stop people pleasing. Because when you're just abandoning yourself all the time, every time you just people please or you just let someone walk all over you, you're constantly just abandoning your own self-worth, your self-needs. So you get to a point where you go, that's not all right. Spiritual ninja, pew, 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 have that, mate.
Oh
Like,
God, I
that is
love it so
yours.
much.
Like, keep that off me. I'm good here. And the more that you do that, the more you become aligned to people who want to be a little spiritual ninja with you. So it's cool.
Yeah, I do. I think I mean, we could spend hours talking about this, but like, I do think you said at the beginning that I have no time for shallow conversations either, at surface level. And actually, I think that's where you get to through, yoga, coaching, therapy, like all of that, where you're just like, to be honest, like, I don't really give a shit what your name is or what you do for work. Like, I want to know like who you are, and that scares the
Yeah.
shit out of some people, and it's my favorite
Yeah,
thing.
definitely, Jess. I couldn't agree more. Like those really, really vulnerable shares when the little voice shakes and
Yeah.
you're like, and you just, there's so much power in that. And we've been doing these Reclaim the Flame days where we raise money for the Pandora Project. And it has been, we're very inclusive. So we'll have men and women in our group. And again, that's really important to me to work with masculine and feminine
Mm,
energy. Because, like I say, we've got all of it. So we really need to be getting more men on mats. That's another story beside itself. But, this really beautiful thing about just giving them space to allow themselves to feel. And
mm.
we really attract a real wide age range. So we've got people from their 20s. I've got people in their 80s also, and they're sat in the same circle. And Wendy will quote Wendy, always quote Wendy. She will always say there is more that connects us than divides us. And she's so right. But we only know it once we get past that. Oh, how are the kids doing at school?
Yeah,
Where's your summer
yeah.
holiday? Oh, you're having your hair done this week. No, we sit in spaces where we start to say, do you know what? I've felt invisible as I've got older and I come into my 40s and 50s and the kids have left, and or I didn't know what my identity was going to be like when I didn't have children, and all these, and we had a
Mm.
really healing moment in that there was a mum whose children had moved away and had left her feeling like, who am I now? The children had gone, and she was experiencing grief. And there was a crossover conversation that isn't done enough about someone who hadn't had kids said, I felt like that forever. Like, I haven't ever had kids, and I've had this grief around that. And there was this beautiful meeting of these two worlds that never collide.
Yeah.
And it's these conversations, it's in these moments that so much healing, there is so much power in circles. It doesn't just have to be feminine circles. I get a little bit annoyed with how much yoga seems to be all about this divine feminine. Absolutely. And we should be embracing that 100%. But to heal this dynamic around this masculinity, they're really getting a hard time for many reasons. But to heal this dynamic, we need guys in the space as much as we need women in the space. And we need to find these safe men who are doing their work that are going to say, I've got you, I see you, I can hold all of your madness and you can hold all of mine, and we're going to be safe. And that's going forward really what I want to work with. So, because I think that will have an impact on domestic violence, I think that will have an impact on healthier relationships, like the divorce rate it's through the roof.
Yeah.
Who says that you even have to be getting married or anything? But if any relationship, it doesn't have to be a male and a female. Any relationship, we are carrying this masculine and feminine energy,
Yeah.
and we have to be responsible for both parts in our own bodies, in our own lives, and we have to be responsible for how we're showing up. What triggers us is showing us where we still need to do our healing work. So, that's the hardest thing. What sends you loopy about someone, or what irks you about someone, is the thing that's telling you, what are you seeing about yourself in that? And that's the hardest thing for anyone to do, right?
So challenging. It is so,
Mm,
but the bravery to look into that and do it, the power that you get on the other side is huge, right?
yeah.
So tell me what success means to you.
I've had a number of different episodes in my life, Jess, where, I definitely had a successful police career,
Mm.
but again, that was balanced with burning out, overworking. So I would only say that now, do I feel like I'm in a success era? And it's because I feel contented
Mm.
and because I feel grounded. And actually, it's the time in my life where I have the least. Like, I have the least material possessions, I have the least societal labels, and I am enough, which has taken me a long time to say that. So I am enough, and I can sit in front of the mirror and I can genuinely say, I love myself, I like myself. And I have really, really done my work around that. There are still days when my state isn't good. I haven't slept, or I haven't, eaten well, or I haven't taken care of myself, that my head will still be in a spiral. I am not nailing this every day. I am not Gandhi by any stretch of the imagination.
I'm
I've
sure
got a
even
long
he's
way
had a
to
bad day.
I've got a long way to go. I am not getting this all right. I absolutely, some of my friends get like the biggest spiral of messages sometimes, and they're like, Claire, just breathe, stop spiraling. But it's that thing of knowing how to come back to your peaceful center,
Yeah.
doing the practices. People are all looking for these quick fixes, Jess. They're looking for like 10 days to this, 20 days to that, blah, blah, blah. How do I bypass all these emotions and nail having an amazing body and an amazing mind? Well, you're not going to. You've got to sit with the shit, basically.
That is the only way through, right? Like one of my favorite books as a kid was We Were All Going on a Bear Hunt. And like the premise is like, we can't go over it, we can't go under it, we've got to go through it. And I think about this all the time
Absolutely.
with emotions, like, because
Yeah.
you're so right, like there is no quick fix. I think
No.
also there's a real tendency, like when things are going well, to put the practices to one side. And then
Yes.
when things stop going well, and we're like,
Yeah.
oh, what happened? And you're like, well, you stopped doing your practices. Like I see this in myself all the time. I'm like, oh, I got a bit busy. And then now I
Yeah.
have to look like it's like, oh God, I've got to get back on the
Yeah.
treadmill of doing it properly and doing the practices, because that's the work.
Yeah, and I think that obviously for yoga, they say that consistency, Patanjali, the yoga sage, said consistency is key, but it's consistency as to what you can fit in your life. And
Mm.
again, quoting Wendell's good old Wen, she says, do the bare minimum, right? So do the bare minimum of practice, but do it consistently.
Yeah.
And now it's non-negotiable. I meditate every day, twice, maybe three times a day sometimes, and the practices are there as well. And I wouldn't be as grounded and together as I am, I can really navigate some really huge life events now. The duality of it bothers me less,
Mm.
but remaining humble in that as well. I don't sit here and say I'm nailing it all. I'm not by any stretch of the imagination. But these practices are like your lifeboat in storms. They really are. They're going to hold you together. You've got to have faith that if you are digging into those practices, even if you can stop and breathe, going back to policing, the calmest, the best police officers are the ones that could walk into a scene of absolute carnage and they would slow down and they would take a
Mm.
breath and everyone would feed off that calm energy. Literally, you can imagine the most horrific situations, but the best officers were the ones that went in and just went calm, slow, methodical, and just got things sorted. Could be literally dealing with a victim who had just been through the most traumatic event. And that calmness, that grounded energy just magnetizes to everyone around you.
Yeah.
And if you can be in your peace and your calm, and the world is spiraling around you, and you can know how to come back to this peaceful center, that's success for me, for sure.
That's yeah. It's enough said, really, there, isn't it? Just and you've kind of touched on this, but like, how has your definition of success changed throughout your life? Had this
Yeah.
incredibly successful police career, like at that time, what was success for you then?
It's really funny. I have had some really interesting chapters. I married into quite a lot of money at one point as well, and that seemed like success. But that was difficult because sometimes you can be quite affluent and there's no joy in that for people. When they have everything, they can't see the joy. And that's a really difficult dynamic as well. So it's really funny because no one ever speaks about being wealthy and problems maybe that wealthy people would have, because it's almost like, yeah, it's just a really
Well,
difficult
it's
one
so
because it's like
taboo, isn't it? Because you're
if you've got
expected to be
money, you've got
happy.
no
Yeah,
problems, right?
yeah,
And obviously, it does navigate a lot of things, but that for me, having money has never meant success. And I've had none, I've had lots, I've had whatever. Now,
yeah,
like, it's really been an interesting journey. So there's so many things that I think we can come back to them societal labels of what we think
yeah.
success should be. But I think as we progress in life, I think success is an inward journey for sure.
Oh, I love that. It's an inside job, isn't it?
Yeah.
What barriers or challenges have you had to overcome? I know you talked about like obviously you're waiting for that gravel, the car on the gravel in your first yoga classes, but what else has like been out there as you've gone through?
Yeah, I think, in the yoga world, there is an aesthetic of what
Mm,
a yoga person looks like. And I'm like 5'3". I have always struggled with my diet. I have had a massive fluctuation in weight during my years. I have never looked what your stereotypical yogi would look like. Okay.
yeah,
But actually, that's been brilliant. It's played to the advantage because we get so many different shapes and sizes coming to our classes and we're inclusive. It's just breaking down this perception. You don't have to be anything to step into a yoga class. You don't have to be, you just have to be able to breathe. If you can breathe, you can go and do yoga. This whole notion of this amazing, like, still have these conversations now. Oh, I'm not flexible. I can't come, Claire. I'm like, oh, it doesn't matter. Nor was I, and there's still things that I'm still progressing towards. So it's just, I think for me, it's breaking down, again, it's all about breaking down these barriers. The way I teach now, I don't even think it's yoga sometimes. Like, it's just wiggly movement and breath and calming the nervous system and coming into more of this therapeutic practice that's telling our nervous system, you're okay. Well, you've got yourself on this mat here. And, you might have grown up with the most horrific childhood trauma, or you might have never felt seen or held or heard or loved. But your yoga practice goes, we've got you. You've got
Yeah.
yourself. You can trust yourself and your intuition. God, it doesn't get anything better than that, really, to be perfectly honest. That little self-belief seed that grows.
Yeah. Yeah. And just believing in yourself. You said
Absolutely.
earlier, but just believing like when your intuition tells you something, you're like, yep, that's
Yeah.
the right thing.
Unshakable self-belief, Jess, is my little thing now. That, those days where you doubt yourself and you go, and for me there's always this dynamic dialogue between I'm enough, but then some days I can be too much, right? But there's nothing wrong with being too much either. And that's you when you think you're being too much and you pull yourself back, where's that come from? That's someone's voice
Yeah.
that's not yours, right? And that's something that I've had to deal with. I was definitely like that, the performing monkey as a child, like in the family, the youngest one that was always like, da-da, here I am, like, let's bring the
Yeah.
fun. And then afterwards, you get told, just calm down a bit, stop showing off. That whole dialogue where I'd even get sent to my room, you get sent to your room because you'd showed off too much. And now I'm like, I'm in my full show off now.
I love this for you.
You can't, so I can't be sent to my room anymore. I'm just
No.
gonna like literally be the boldest version. But there are also days where I want to hide under a rock, Jess, as well,
Yeah.
because that is just human nature. And we're not all bold and brave and confident 24/7. But on the days that you are, nail it, believe in it, go and use that power to be whatever you want to be. And on the days you need to just go, I need a little rock to climb under today, then do that when you can as well. Like, we don't
Yeah.
have to be nailing it 24/7. We've got to take this pressure off ourselves.
Yeah. And I think that's such an important message as well, because I feel like there is definitely more so now. We've all got phones in our pockets and emails with us all the time and Teams and all of that. Like it's always there. It's sort of there's an expectation that if you show up in one way one day, then you're going to show up in that way every single day. And like, as you said, like we're all humans, like stuff goes on in the background. We don't see what everyone's got going on. And it can be really, really challenging to like maintaining that facade.
Yeah,
It's sort of where that burnout does come, where that
yeah,
depression does come,
definitely.
because that's you're trying to be someone who you're not, and it's just
Yeah.
completely exhausting.
Yeah, and I think, touching on the phones, I know we talk about it so much, but just giving yourself some downtime. I mean, I'm still on my phone a lot because of work, but I have days where I consciously choose to turn my phone off and I consciously go and walk somewhere with no one that can get hold of me. We've just got this thing that we're always accessible to people. Actually, we need to disconnect from the world and we need to disconnect from everybody so we can reconnect to ourselves. And then you'll be surprised how more beautiful your connections with everyone becomes, because we've got to get quiet and we can't even sit with a coffee for like 10 minutes without looking at a phone. This is my starting point, really. I try and teach meditation, and the starting point is just sit quietly for a minute. Most people can't even achieve that
Yeah.
because our minds are so busy, the pace of the world is so busy, but we were never ever meant to operate at this pace. And this is why there is so much stress, anxiety, depression, all the mental health issues that go on. We were never meant to be operating at this pace. We just so need to start to connect inward again. We've trying to facilitate these beautiful classes where there may be a bit more spiritual, a bit more of the woo, Jess. Like,
We love a bit of the woo. We love a bit of the
I'm in
woo.
my full witchy woo era these days, and but these are beautiful, ancient, sacred practices that are over like 5,000 years old. There's something in them, right? All these
Yeah.
beautiful cultures wouldn't be practicing chanting and mudra and all these silent, quiet, like sadhana practices that basically just allow this connection to something greater than just yourself, whatever that is. And this is where we need to go to if we're going to ever find any peace and contentment in our lives and joy and bliss. We're here to have a bit
Hmm.
of fun. Everyone's
Yeah.
so like energy is so heavy sometimes in the UK. And you're just like, have some fun, like be the wildest, boldest, weirdest version of you and don't care, like care less. Everyone's so absorbed with their own lives. No one's really watching you anyway. And the ones that are watching you are doing it going, go on, girl, most of the time, if they're coming from a good place.
Or they're
So,
just jealous that they don't have
well,
the bravery to do it
yeah,
with
but
you.
like some of us have to go ahead, Jess, and just
You've got to
be
light the
this
flame.
zany, light your flame, and you'll find your little, the old Brenny Brown. I love this saying. So Brenny Brown says that you have your flame, your candle, this gorgeous light that is uniquely yours. And she says, find those people that are going to cup their hands around your flame and say, man, what a beautiful light that is. And what an incredible light. And she says, do not be around the candle blower outers. I bloody
Oh,
love that
I
too.
love that so
Yeah.
much.
Who wants to be a candle? We've all had them. We've all had
Oh
those
yeah,
people that want to come along and extinguish your flame. Well,
yeah.
no, I only align to people who go, oh, look at that light. Let's be with this energy. It's really nice.
So tell us about Reclaim Your Flame. Where did the name come from? How did you come up with the concept?
Things
How
come
do
to me,
people
Jess.
find it?
Reclaim the Flame came about. I think the name came to me in meditation. And then the idea of we called I Am the Storm. So it's all about this internal process that we've got going on at the time. Your storms can be horrific. They can also be really powerful. It just depends how we reframe everything. This reclaim your flame, all of us have got this soul, right? All of us have got this soul. Life can really dampen that light sometimes. Your light can go, whoa, but it's never going to go out unless you die, right? While you are alive on this planet, there is this tiny flicker of a flame inside of you. Now, being around the right things, the right environment, the right everything that, the more aligned you come to good food, good practices, good people, that flame is going to soar to the point you feel like you're on fire and you're becoming too much. And everyone's like, what? What's wrong? Like, what is the energy of this person? Because you're just full of this beautiful light. And that's the whole idea that we will collectively heal around the stuff that we need and allow people space for them to become these bigger, bolder versions of themselves.
So these are events you run monthly.
Yeah,
I'll link your website in the show
thank
notes so
you.
people can
Yeah,
find you.
Saturdays, once a month. So
Brilliant.
money goes directly to the Pandora Project, who are just doing the most fantastic work in Norfolk.
Okay. Brilliant. What advice would you give to your younger self?
Oof. I That's been a journey for sure.
Mm,
I think learning to love the little version of you is exactly where it's at because that version was molded by whatever took place in that childhood, right?
yeah.
And even people who go, I had a great childhood, you're like,
Mm. Uh-huh.
we always have to give compassion to the fact that our parents did the best with the tools they had. They were doing what they could with their circumstances. Now, I know that's really difficult in some dynamics for what some people have had to navigate in their childhoods, but I think it's just learning to love and knowing that this thing that we're adults, but we're still that little version. And that little version crops up all the time. And that little version causes a lot of
Oh yeah.
problems. It's really, really good to understand how they are going to play out in the dynamics of a relationship, any relationship. It's important to learn around that. If I was Prime Minister, we'd all have like a good years of counselling. We'd have a good year of therapy. Every
Yes.
single person, right? Every single person
Yes.
would go through it because I've got parents who are like, what do you want to do that for? Like, why would you want it? And there's still
Yeah.
a generation that just would not even look at therapy or counselling. I would subscribe it to everybody. I would get it in schools, and you can cash in on this anytime you need it because I think to understand your childhood will reframe everything for your entire life and also allow you to learn to have compassion for whatever happened there and knowing that you can still step into a really joyful, blissful life without that being it's a huge this huge subject, isn't it? Because
Mm.
like I say, some people have the most trauma in their childhood that you can't even begin to fathom really. And I'm not saying that it's an easy, none of this spiritual path or healing path, none of this is easy. And I think that's why a lot of people numb out and don't do the work. And it's easy to scroll or be drinking or drugs or all those sort of things that are just numbing us out. But to sit with your pain, it's not easy. It's really not. So, I don't sit here lightly.
No.
And I think it's a unique journey for every single individual. I've just been really fortunate in how I've managed to navigate my own journey, but it's not easy for anyone to do this journey.
No, fortunate maybe, but you've also been brave enough to take the steps and you've cultivated that inner strength to stay with it. And you're right, like sometimes that's you don't want to be there. Like it's really hard. But
Yeah,
I do think when you know what's on the other side of not doing that,
yeah,
then actually doing it is almost not an option. Like
yeah.
it's like, well, you're just gonna stick with it. Because
It's sad for me, Jess, that's been my path, but it's sad for me that to go on this path, it's often when people have really hit that rock bottom. It's really when your mental health is at its most fragile. You're maybe considering taking your own life. I literally got to a point where I didn't want to be here anymore when I found out I couldn't have kids. And, I didn't take it any further than that, but those thoughts were there. And then I was like, I've got to do something about this. And doctors weren't cutting it. Doctors were like, you need to get antidepressants, you need to go and speak to a psychiatrist. And I was like, I don't want that route. And it was that sent me off on a holistic route, really, and finding someone who basically just said, breathe, move. Like in our childhood, no one takes you aside, Jess, and says, this is how you breathe. This is how you
yeah.
calm your nervous system. When you get overwhelmed, just go and lie on the mat. Just go
Mm.
and lie on the floor. Take your shoes and socks off and go and walk around the garden. If anyone had parents like that, you were really lucky. We're trying to make everything accessible. We don't charge much money, and this is the idea of us walking a calmer path that hopefully we can go into charities and we can do things where we're not charging the charities. We generate the money from the studio, from the classes in the studio, and then hopefully we can start to tap into funding. There's good funding available by big businesses and corporates and things like that. So we can tap into this funding to then start to do more work. We've just joined the UK Karma Collective, which is run by some lovely people down in Brighton. And there is the most incredible work being done across the UK that is just stepping into all of these places, are stepping into working with victims of domestic violence, asylum seekers, in prisons. Yoga therapy is now cutting edge way of looking at mental health and healing and all these aspects. I'm doing a course currently with a Minded Institute in London, and Heather Mason, the founder of that, is just the most incredible voice for an alternative way of healing through this yoga therapy. It's very scientific. It's all about our bodies, and it all collides. Our medical side, scientific side, how we're living in our lives. It's all part of it, all these layers of the self that we have, the physical body, the mental body, the bliss body, all these different layers are giving us the clues we need to have for a contented life. But we just have to work really gently with ourselves, with compassion and kindness.
Mm.
Like I say, there's no quick fix to any of this.
No. But I think once you know that, then you just get on with
Yeah.
it, don't you?
Yeah.
Well
And it's
then,
here for life. There's been so many things along my journey where I'm like, I'm nailing it now. Everything's going really well. And then whoosh, bang, here's another massive life event that you didn't think you were going to have to deal with in this lifetime. Here it is on your plate. But you're like, well, I've done this before. I've been here before, navigated this similar situation before, and I survived it. And I know that I've got these practices to support me. And before you know it, one day leads to another, and you're another completely different version of yourself. And we're ever evolving and ever changing if we open it up, if we allow the
yeah.
flow.
But I think it's like change is the only constant. And actually, I think because the opposite to change is decay, right? Like you don't stay still. So if you are not changing, you're decaying. And like no one wants
Yeah.
that.
Or that feeling of getting stuck. We can often feel stuck. We can stay in routine, and even that thing that if you're someone that is living the same routine day in and day out, maybe try a different coffee shop.
Yeah.
Maybe take a different route to work. Maybe clean your teeth with the right hand instead of the left hand.
I'm excited for this question. What is your weird? What's the weirdest
Oh
thing you've
my
ever
God.
done?
Oh, I think I live quite weird. Like I said, I don't follow the norms. The weirdest thing I've ever done. I've got a funny one.
Go on.
So, when I was in my teenage years, I used to work in an ice cream stand in Felixstowe on the seafront, and it sold like seafood, them weird things that concoctions that
Oh
you like
yeah.
cockles and whelks. And anyway, there used to be, this will go over so many people's heads because it's so old, but there used to be a really famous band called Chaz and Dave.
Heard of them? Yeah.
And they used to do this song, it's like rabbit. Anyway, they were performing in the local theatre, and my claim to fame is that I served Chaz and Dave Whelks.
That is pretty cool. Well done.
But that's probably one of the weirdest things. I've had a lot of weird moments in the police as well, for sure.
Oh
Like
God.
a lot of weirdness. But yeah, I don't know. I'm quirky for sure. But again, it's just a label, isn't it? So what makes
Yeah,
that? Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
So,
And also, if someone's weird is someone else is completely normal. Like,
exactly.
people are going to listen to this and be like, what the fuck is yoga? And we're going to be like, cool, we do this every day. Like, it's just
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
I just think it's an interesting thing to start to explore because
Yeah.
we've all got our things, haven't we?
I think that's massive, Jess, like your light and dark as well. So we all
Yeah.
have a public presentation. We all
Yes.
have the public facing, but I think coming back to this dynamic in relationships, the behavior at home behind closed doors, the way that we talk to our families and our loved ones, that's where the work is because we've all got that behind closed doors side, right? And that's where the true self shows up, or that's where the little Claire, little Jess that isn't quite
Mm,
healed will show up.
yeah.
And that's where you look at where your work needs to be done.
And also how we talk to ourselves, right? Like if
Yeah.
you ever listen to that in a dialogue, at
Yeah.
times you're like, would I talk to someone else
Yeah.
like this? Come on
So
now.
I've got a friend who I practice with. She's got the most beautiful practice. She's more stable on her hands than her feet. So I go to her for a bit of fun every now and then. She's a wonderful, wonderful lady. Cat, KWC Yoga, she's called. First time I went into her, I really wanted, it was the beginning of my practice, I wanted to nail all these hard poses, right? I was like, I need to do my Mayurasana, I need to be doing all these stupid, like, well, not stupid, I should brain frame that, all these poses that are just like push and push. And I was desperate to get them. And I went in and I just went to her, I'm too old, again, blah, 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 load of verbal dialogue all over her. And she went to me, shall we start again, Claire? And I was like, yeah, probably. So she said that in a voice. She said, what are we going to call him? So I was like, oh, I don't know. And it didn't have to be a him. But I called my inner voice Tony
Love it.
from that session. And now I tell Tony to regularly do one when he pipes up. So
Great. Love it.
yeah, name
Yeah.
that inner voice
Mine's
and
called
tell him to do
Hilda.
one.
She's a pain in the
Nice.
ass. Yeah. I
Oh, I
wish
wonder
Tony
if
and Hilda can like go and have a cup of
Tony and
coffee
Hilda
together
could
while
have a
like you and I
date.
get on with our get on with the rest of our lives. Thanks so much, Claire. This has been such a beautiful conversation. I knew it would be when I asked you to come on the pod. I knew it'd be amazing. Right, tell us where we can find you, what you've got coming up.
So basically, we're opening a sauna box this
Okay,
summer.
amazing.
There's a company, amazing company in North Norfolk, and we've bought a sauna box from them. And we're going to be doing hot and cold
Yeah,
therapy, but also just getting into the breath. And then there's going to be farm fit and yoga outside in the back paddock. And we've got an opening event at the end of the month, around about the 26th of July. Everything's just going to be free, but we're going to have little collection buckets to try and get some money in for charity. We're funding the event ourselves and just going to see how it all goes. There's a lot coming up. Leverinset Watermill is in just outside Holt in North Norfolk. We're called I Am the Storm Yoga. Come and find us. We're always up to lots. And if you're a charity locally and want to work with us, then we're open to really seeing what we can do. We're really enjoying facilitating some practices, and the shifts in people in some of these settings has been incredible. So really grateful for being able to do this work. It's really humbling work.
we will put all your contact details in the show notes so people can
Thank
find you.
you, Jess.
Yeah.
Thank you. I wish you all the best of your podcast. It's lovely. See you. Take care.
Thank you so much for listening today, and thank you so much to Claire for being a part of the programme. When speaking to Claire, I found myself completely captivated by her deep commitment to healing and creating spaces where those around her can heal too. What really struck me was Claire's insight that success is an inward journey. It's so powerful. The fact that she's learned to sit in front of a mirror and genuinely say, I love myself, I like myself, I am enough, is so profound. And there are not many people who can say that and truly mean it. But she's done the work. I was also really moved by Claire's wisdom around sitting with difficult emotions rather than trying to bypass them. There's no quick fix to healing. You have to sit with the shit, as Claire so beautifully put it. Claire's approach to building her yoga community through authentic service rather than grasping for commercial success is inspirational. The way she's created a space where people can cry, heal, and find their flame again, while also giving back to domestic violence charities, shows how business can be a force for genuine healing in the world. My main takeaway from this conversation is Claire's reminder that we all have this inner flame. Life might dampen it, but it never goes out. And when we align ourselves with the right practices, the right people, and the right environment, that flame can soar to the point where we're too much. And that is exactly where we need to be. I hope you agree that Claire's story is truly inspirational. I've actually been trying to convince her to write a book since I met her. So if you do know any publishers, let me know. If this conversation sparked something for you, I want to hear about it. Send me your thoughts, your questions, your holy shit, that is exactly what I'm going through moments, whatever's on your mind. Drop me a line at successfulafpod@gmail.com. And here's the thing, I am always looking for incredible people to feature on this show. Those who've broken the mold, redefined success on their own terms, or are just in the thick of that transformation right now. If that's you or someone you know, don't be shy. Nominate them or yourself at successfulafpod@gmail.com. Also, do me a solid and subscribe. Maybe even write me a review and send it on to your mates. Because the more stories we share, the more we can prove that there is not just one way to be successful AF. Thank you.